again. Welcome to Jesus TV at www.getmorejesus.com. Also, for the poems, you can go to the tracklesspath.com, and that's Jonathan's site with Jesus. www.getmorejesus.com is Jesus's site with me that he's helped me to compose. And so what we are doing is called episode 1. Take it away, Jonathan. Let's hear a poem.
All right. So the name of this poem is A Change in Economics. It's just a change, that's all. And the end of one thing is always the beginning of another. And this time, something better is coming. If you have eyes to see, a new world. But in order for this great and last change to be absolute, we had to grow fat on lesser things, not just as a nation, but as a world. And finally, it's ready so that when it falls, it will be complete. And that is perfect. For the thing that awaits, I lost my place. For the thing that awaits is the very thing we were longing for with all of our devices. And early in the morning, on the day after it all comes down, on a street corner perhaps, before the sun is fully up, there will stand someone selling something, eggs perhaps, and somewhere else, someone will be giving something away or trading for the thing he needs. And the world will go on living, breathing, interacting. For economy is an eternal part of existence. It goes on, despite the fall of nations, despite the end of worlds. But this time, the winds of fortune have changed. Already they blow in the direction of those who work in the service of something more than the pursuit of personal profit. So don't lose heart when the towers fall. It's only the beginning of something better than all that we thought we served when first we set our hands to the plow and decided that we were man enough to look out for number one.
That's good. I love this poem. Yeah, tell us about this poem.
So let's start from the beginning, like you suggested.
Yep, line by line. Let's do that.
Line by line. So, a change in economics, and it's a change. That's all.
I like that. I like that. Go ahead. I was gonna say I like that first line. It's like it's just a change. That's all. Like a change in economics, and that's that in our society. Well, in life, that's a big change. But I like how you start that out with it's just a change.
Well, and that's the feeling. Like it's oftentimes when I'll start to write something, and I call these poems. But you kind of know I don't try to rhyme or anything. I just am trying to say something, and it always comes out by line, one line at a time.
Yeah, and you said something that in the last episode that I really like, cadence. And then that I'm like, yeah, it kind of has a rhythm to it. And that's how I kind of receive it too. If I spoke this way, it would kind of seem a little strange to people, kind of beatnik, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a change that all that when I'll sit down to write something, oftentimes there's just a little thought in my mind. And I think that was the thought that was in my mind when I sat down to write that day was, it's just a change. It's like, and how do I put this? It's like, don't lose your soul over a change. It's like there will be people, there were people in 1929 when the stock market crashed who literally jumped out of buildings in New York City because they were broke. And what a shame. What it's like, and I'll be honest, like, so if I look at the out at the world, which I usually don't do, I don't look at the news, I don't look at anything, but if I look out at the world and if I consider what's going on, well, it looks like it could be really soon, but the truth is I'm not totally convinced of that. It may be possible that we limp along for quite a number of years. It's like I wouldn't even be surprised if it's much later in my life or into my children's lives after I'm gone. Of course, I plan to live a long time. But the point being is that it could be a ways down the road before everything completely, like this complete fall that I'm talking about. In the meantime, there's minor falls. It's like they call it the Great Recession of 2008 or whatever. It's like the point being, though, is that that's what I wanted to say about the first line and the thought, is that it's like, and it's true of, like, if you look back in history, whenever there has been a major change in the guard, or when like there's been tumultuous times, and if there was an economic crash or a societal breakdown, it's like there were always people who were kind of going the opposite direction of everybody who was rushing to do one thing or another. Like, like everybody's selling, and and that's the time that the guy who's who knows money is like, buy, 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 and he buys up at pennies on the dollar because he knows that there's a new economy. And it's different for us. It's not, that's not the spirit, like, in the sense of like preying upon other people and stuff. That's not the spirit of it. But the next line, the end of one thing is always the beginning of another, and this time something better is coming. If you have eyes to see a new world. And it's like, I think we've gotten, as religious people, we've gotten into this mindset. I'll say this last thing and then I'll hand it back to you. But we've gotten in this mindset of the end of the world, and this idea that it's like, we're waiting for the rapture. And I've spent some time with just, Christians, and I've spent some time, of course, my growing up in Mormonism. And all of us kind of have this idea of Christ coming back, and the idea that, and some believe we're going to be caught up or brought back down. And it's, based on how you read the scriptures, it's hard to know. But the point is that we've gotten this thing in our minds that it's like, yes, it's going to end, but it's like, and I'll just say this: I got a good friend of mine who I work with, and he's just the greatest guy, and he's a Christian, and we often talk, and he often talks about, things are getting close, and Christ is going to come back and take us. Christ is going to come back and take us. And I've said at times, well, I don't know that he's going to, take us before such and such happens, before such and such happens. And and it's kind of hard for him to even imagine that. Like, well, no, he wouldn't let this happen to me or to mine. It's like,
That's
and
right.
it's like, and what you don't realize is the apocalypse already came to other places. Like, remember that, like, was it a tidal wave in Haiti a few years back?
Yeah.
An earthquake, like the apocalypse comes, and that's the weird thing about the scriptures. And that's a discussion for another time. I got to give the talking stick back, but basically, like the quicker we can kind of get that, it's like, yes, there is divine deliverance, and we'll talk about that at a different time. But I'm telling you something, that let's rejoice And that's the spirit of what I wrote in this, is that, look, it's just the end of one thing and the beginning of another. And the quicker you accept it and embrace the new economy and the new world that's coming, the more you will just ride right through this. There's people who did that in the Great Depression. It was like, yeah, they might have scrimped here and there, but like they had a different view, a different mindset, and they found possibilities that other people didn't. I think that's what I was trying to say with the whole thing. I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, I like that. And that comment about what people expect from God. And the closer I get to him, I'm like, you know what I expect? The unexpected more and more. And it kind of makes sense because it goes with what Jesus has programmed my mind. There's a song by Don Henley called Forgiveness. And he says, the more I know, the less I understand. All the things I thought I'd figured out, I have to learn again. And that's actually the spirit of Christ on the highway of truth. So as you get closer to Christ, you're going to get more truth. But here's what comes with truth: ambiguity. You're going to get more ambiguity. The things you thought you knew and understood are going to start coming into question. Whoa, at the same time that you think, wow, now I know something. And yet, do you? And so then you end up having to go a lot of the ways with Christ, not knowing beforehand the things which you should do, because you start seeing things are in play. Because now you're being given eyes, and there's a lot going on that our eyes don't see, that we can just kind of retreat to our norms, the way we were raised, the way people are thinking about it, and sound bites, because newscasters need to sound coherent. They, your doctor, when you go in there, it doesn't really sit well with most people if he goes, do you want me to be truthful? A lot of times I don't even know what I'm doing here. I mean, I don't. I mean, I want to be truthful. Now, I think I know what's going on, but if he just went fully transparent on you, it'd scare you out. Because he could say, and when women take their blouses off and I do my breast checks, I'm sorry, here's what goes through my mind. And so we as humans, we like, please tell me the right truth. And I would never advise a doctor, whatever goes through your mind, keep that to yourself. When you have pizza, don't mention that poop floats out of the bathroom or out of people's bottoms, because it does. Pieces of particles of poop land on your pizza. And you say, what kind of pizza is that? Well, that's a pepperoni and poop pizza. Well, there's no poop on there. I guarantee there's poop. If you had an electron microscope, you could find so many things. And so that actually someday you and I can review. It was kind of a poetic, if you will. Jesus was training me about the right truth. And the right truth is shared at the right time. And so that's a truth that if you're, and the right person. So if you're a microbiologist, or you're trying, people are dying from Fat Jack's Pizza or something, and you got to find out why that is. Well, you're going to look at more than just pepperoni. What's on that pizza? Well, there's just pepperoni on that. There's nothing wrong with that pizza. No, you start looking in a different way. And so as God gives you eyes to see, as you pluck out your offensive eye, like, why are you plucking out your eye? It's not explaining the world. I feel befuddled. So I'm putting a new childlike eye in that Jesus gave me. Then you start, well, children don't know anything. Yep, that's why I know it's a child's eye, because like, I don't know what's going on anymore. Well, put your PhD eye in. Then you'll know everything, because you'll be smarter than everybody. And like, now that hasn't served me well. I find myself ever learning, never coming to the truth, multiplying many words like I'm doing now. But your proposition that people want, and it's good to want to believe your doctor knows what he's doing, and he does generally, but you always have to open up the possibility, even if he knows what he's doing, he could make a mistake. This is a risky life. My mom died because they were doing a biopsy, nothing wrong with that. It's done a lot of times, but they hit a vein, and Who knew? But things happen. And if you want to spend your life worrying about things, then get rigid and don't be
Yeah.
nimble. Just get rigid, because then when life defies you, which it will, it's too variable, then you're going to be miserable. But if you instead go, well, here's what I hope for, and my hope is in Christ. So when you start putting hope in Christ, you're like, well, what does he tell you? Well, some general things like this economy is going down. Does he tell you when? No. Does he tell you all these things? And a lot of times the answer is no, but he will tell you certain things. And so he's told me, here's what you need to do, Greg, is gather lots of Jesus. And that means that's what we're doing right now. It's like, why am I interested in your poetry? Because it's prophetic. I'm looking up like, oh, Jesus was telling me stuff like this. And so when you introduced your poems, I'm like, I had to catch my tongue because I said, so Jonathan, tell us, and I was about ready to say what Jesus said to you. And then you're going to go line by line, but that's because he's changed my tongue. Like if I was analyzing my songs, well, those are Jesus's lines. What is he saying to you, Greg? It's not what I'm saying to myself, but that's a belief statement. And so I liked what you're talking about, the economy. There's things we don't know about it, but it's okay. It's okay to be comforted. It's okay to back off, because I do. When I go eat pizza, I don't. What are you thinking of, Greg? It's not poop. It's pepperonis. It's green peppers. It's family. It's how nice this tastes.
And you just accept it.
Yeah, I just accept it like that. But you could be wrong. Or how far are you away from the bathrooms? I don't even want to think about that. I don't want to think about stuff like that. And because but is there truth? Sure. But it doesn't bring me peace. And I'd be okay with a poop pizza if I had peace. Give me liberty or give me death. Give me peace or give me death. So will I stick my hand in the sand? Oh, gladly. But I'll pop up once in a while and go, what do you think? And I think you're right. I think Jesus's words to you are right. This is changing. And I've never met a person who doesn't know this economy is going down. Because when I got born again, I started asking people, do you know this is going down, this economy? And you could tell, if I said, do you know that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the only true church on the face of the earth? I would see that wrestle. Now they wouldn't agree with that. But when I say this economy is going down, I'm like, you're telling everybody, Jesus. They know it. There's something instinctual that they know. And so I like how your poem starts out. Yeah. Well,
and so what was I going to say about it? Oh, okay. So I'm going to take it almost a step further. And that is that, so willingly blind is what came to my mind. Choosing blindness. Yeah. And loving the modern. So let's see if I can be fairly brief about this. Then we'll read a few more lines of the poem, I guess. But so I wanted to just kind of echo what you were saying and almost take it another step down the road, in the sense of like, okay, and this has been something that's been in my mind for probably, well, it probably started at least a decade and a half ago. And so what I say, I don't really say lightly, like I've thought through this like a lot. I owned a preparedness business. So we sold seeds, heirloom seeds, these, canisters with heirloom seeds. We manufactured them, we sold them to. Oh
yeah, that's right. I remember you telling me that. That's right.
Yeah. And I did that for 5 years, and I made a decent living at it, and I was very grateful to have the business. But it was very strange and interesting to work in the prepper field. And I hope I'm not offending somebody who's a prepper who may be listening. If you're hardcore, you probably won't even be listening to what we're talking
about. That's right. You don't have time for this. You should be getting your bunker ready.
Like, store food, man, store food. You know, so like they tuned out a long time ago, probably, but like, so loving the modern, and this is, I'm going to just touch on this, and then I think it would be cool, maybe if I write a poem about it, we can do it. We can do a different day and go into it deep. But like, so, okay. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to start with this. Like, Christ said a bunch of things which were absolutely insane. Okay. He said a few things which make absolutely no sense. Not even like in the realm of like the way the world works. He said like, you know, he was talking about not worrying about tomorrow. Let tomorrow take thought for the things of itself. Like our entire existence, this entire world is based upon thinking about tomorrow. Like even just seasons, you know, like spring, summer, fall, winter, like, you know, throughout history, people have had to, and it's fascinating to me that the first thing that Adam did when he's cast out of the garden is he goes and he starts tilling the earth, you know, because man, I got to put something away. I got to grow something. I can't count on this garden anymore. You know, it's like, I can't count, you know, so like, I gotta, you know, and then like, and so like, okay, so nowadays, like we think about like, I don't even think about the next meal sometimes. You know, it's like we have grocery stores and, you know, and it's like, and I've lived in the world where I thought in my brain, like, yeah, man, this is all going to come down and I got to go back. Now I got to put some food away. I got to do some stuff to prepare for when this goes down. But there was something in the back of my head, and way back there, it was like, do you really think you can outlast what's coming? Like, you really think you can store enough to outlast what's coming? Like, you know, it cost me like a whole bunch of money to get 2 years worth of food storage, you know, and then it's like I had this knowing in the back of my mind, it's not enough. That's one of the things I found working in that industry, was that that's the prepper mentality, is like, once you start, it's very much like a religion, because there's no end to what you can prepare for. And so like that's the way the history of the earth has been. And everybody wants to go backward. Like they want to go back and be like, no, man, we got to start preparing. We got to start growing our own food. We got to, and I actually love that people grow their own food, but I think there are better reasons to grow your own food than the idea that somehow you're going to offset the trajectory of the world through your garden. Like it doesn't even make any sense. And it's like, we've gone so far, but like these things that Christ said, we haven't even had a chance to really believe them through the whole history of the earth. Only today can we go to the store, and it's like, and we don't have to think about, you know, the next season, the next year. It's like everything in our society has prepared us, conditioned us to have a mindset which is weak in temporal things.
Yes.
It's like if we were put up against, you know, like the caveman or the man Adam, or the, you know, the people who lived out on the plains, or the you know, like we have become physically weak. Like if everything were pulled out tomorrow, it's like we would be toast. And it's like, and people, that scares them off. We got to go back. It's like, you can't go back because it's part of it. It's like, and you know, like we got, sorry, I'm going too deep in this.
No, you're okay.
Yeah. What does it say in Revelation? That they would be given a stone in their hand, which would tell them about things of a lower kingdom, something like that.
Yes.
Okay. It's like everything, it's almost like our society has mimicked heaven. It has mimicked heaven. We, you know, it's like, and so we have been conditioned so that when things do fall, the only option will be faith. And to tell you the truth, what I wanted to say with it was, I just go with it, Greg. Like, I'll be honest, I love this thing.
Right.
And it's the towers that are running it go down.
Yeah.
It's my schedule. It's my everything. Like I'm not preparing. I don't have a lead box, which will shield it.
The EMP,
you know?
right?
it's the same way with, like, the conspiracy. Like, I know they're listening. It's like, I've had conversations with friends, and they'll say, oh, let's take our cell phones outside so that they can't hear us, talk about this thing that we're talking about. It's like, that's fine. It doesn't bother me, but I've gotten to where I just accept it. Go ahead. Sorry, I'll hand it back to you.
No, that's, I like everything you're saying. Let's go back to the poem.
Hey, let's go to it.
Yeah.
All right, back to it. And, but in order for this great and last change to be absolute, we had to grow fat on lesser things, not just as a nation, but as a world. And I think we can hit that pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if you want to say something more about it, but we've grown fat on lesser things. It's like,
I like it. Yeah, and it kind of echoes what you were talking about. Hugh Nibley said, nope, it was Neil Maxwell. We're in the thick of thin things. And it's very easy to do that in a society where there's so much abundance, to spread your energy. And it becomes the modern challenge is, where do I put a lot of my energy? God already answered that. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. But that's kind of hard to do, because, like, what does that even mean? And it takes a whole religion or system of beliefs to answer that question. Let's see. In the end of one thing is always beginning another, and this time something better's coming. So I like that hopeful statement. Okay, go ahead. Yep, go ahead. That's all the.
Can I read on some more?
Yep.
Let's see. So let's see. We had fat on lesser things, not just as a nation, but as a world. And finally, it's ready, so that when it falls, it will be complete, and that is perfect. For the thing that awaits is the very thing we longed for with all of our devices. And I'll just say, so it's when I say it's perfect, I have the sense it really is, like it's the perfect storm to bring us to what we wanted all along. It's like, well, and when I say what we wanted all along, it's like, for for those who love God, there those who have no interest in the truth? Yeah, for sure. Like, there was a third of the host of heaven that, and it talks about, and I talk about that in the book that I wrote in 2016. There's a third. I don't know why the third and 2/3 is important, but it's throughout the New Testament. And so, but it's like, so yes, there are those who have no interest in the truth, but for the children of the divine, and I say the children of the divine, not in the sense it's like we're all children of God, but there's those who love the truth. I'll put it that way. For those who love the truth, it's like, it's the perfect storm. It's like, what do we long for? When I said all our own devices, I kind of meant like two words, like our devices.
Yeah.
And our devices, like how we devise,
Our
all
schemes,
these plans, our
plans.
schemes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's like, because there's two things going in us. On the one hand, there's just the carnal part of us that, like we don't want things to be the way they've been for 6,000 years. We are tired of having to, go out and work in the field, dusk till dark, and barely have enough food to put food on the table, and the kids go hungry half the time. And, it's just like, and all the pressures, like, so there's this carnal part of us that has devised these things to shield us from needing God.
Yes.
Okay.
And yep. And go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, we're just so close to that edge. So I was talking with our friend Stephen Dean, and I'm like, wow, I've been selling stuff on Marketplace, and all of a sudden, boom, I just can't sell anything. But he had been selling prior to this thing that's been happening in the last few weeks, this concern amongst people. Well, an actual running out of money because they're spending more on gas. And he just made the observation that a big portion of people in the United States, richest country in the world, are living right on the edge, living on that edge. And that's because that's just kind of what we do. Well, what home can we afford? Oh, I like this one. I like this one. It's not like, how low can we go? What's the smallest house we could ever make work? Could we live in a van? That's called going low. It's a whole different energy than we got this income. This is what we can count on. And so now let's maximize and let's do what's reasonable. And that used to be 40% of your income, but that's kind of changing. 50%. It's like, oh, and then, okay. And then a car, you know, we need a reliable car. So those are two devices that the devil loves, because then you just plug in there. It generally doesn't become yours ever in this sense. You sign the documents day one. I'm a homeowner, but by the time you refinance and you do all these things, you never really get that thing paid off. Some do, so there's always that hope. Woo, but hey, but some people do. Yeah, but I actually know some people who did. And then when they get old and they fall and break their hips, they go into a nursing home. That's the normal thing. And then guess how fast it took these people, because they're dear to my heart. That stuff's gone, baby. Woo! I mean, and because they'll spend it out at, I think it was $12,000 a month, $12 or $15,000 a month. So yeah, if you got a 10 million, that'll last. But no, but then they'd spend all your money. Then that's Medicaid time, and that's quite normal. And you're like, that's a hard sell. When you're trying to sell houses, you don't try to pitch the idea any more than poop pizza. You don't say, hey, you're going to sign a document. We're going to pretend like you own this. Okay. So, well, can I tell people I own it? Oh yeah, that's pretend, but go ahead. Quit saying pretend. I own this. I mean, I don't want to spend a bunch of money and have it like, well, let me show you the amortization. So for the first 20 years, you're mostly paying principal. So here's this little P, and here's this apple.
Mostly paying interest in the first 20 years. Go ahead.
You're paying the bank so they can get rich right here. And then in 20 years, you'll have this P. You see the P in the apple? Now, a magic thing starts happening at about year 20 or 19. Oh, you're going to start. Oh, I'm paying this. But here's the thing: most people never get to pay, and so that's depressing. I don't want to hear that, and that's kind of things that'll get prophets killed. You bring that kind of truth to people's culture, they don't want that. I'm going to go see a different doctor who knows what he's doing. Well, he'll just be guessing as much as I know, but he won't say that. So I want to have somebody that looks you in the eye and says, I know. And you're like, oh, I can trust this guy. And when you watch news, you want to see evidence. Yeah, I got evidence. Don't ask about that evidence, where it came from, pharmaceutical companies. And so, because then it starts looking crumbly and crappy. So here I'm drawn back to this economy that's actually we're in, that is held up by a lot of this stuff. It's all economies are. It's a story. So the story is changing. Yep, and that's what's goes along with the economy. And our story has become kind of untenable. I mean, it used to be like the mortgage size was more proportional to what people were making. Now it's just becoming fanciful. Oh, let's get you in a 60-year mortgage. Does it really matter? You're not going to pay this thing off. And so
we'll take it back and resell it 6 times.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's what's coming next. I believe they did do that in 2008, start taking these things out to year 40. But I think they'll just start, yeah.
And it's all right. Like we're now into are you okay?
I'm okay. Just one moment. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm on recording television program right now. So we'll have to wrap it up here pretty quick, maybe 10 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
right. Sounds good. So I got started late because I had to eat lunch. So
That's okay.
we'll go pretty fast. I was going to say we're now into fanciful economics, but you know what? I look at that and it's like I see God. I see God everywhere I turn, because it's like, no, that's really how it works. Is
Yeah.
fanciful economics. Like, you know, the guy that's making the Chosen, you know, who decided, you know, like impossible math, he called it, or whatever. His wife said,
Yes.
you know, do impossible math, and it's like, you know, and it's like I look at, he's pumping out a couple million for every single episode, and I'm like, whoa. And so that's where we're going. It's like, you know, it's a miracle. It's like, you know, it's like if we just embrace that, it's like the fact that people get up and do anything without, you know, it's like that's what all this is. It's like, well, why did we have banks? So that some guy will get out of bed in the morning and go build you a house.
Yes.
Why? Because, you know, he can put his faith in the bank that they will pay him. And it's a system, but it's like you change that. It's like what we've really longed for, and to go back to the poem, is what we've thought up with all of our devices. It's like, you know, what we really wanted was, we wanted God. And it's like, and I kind of have this knowledge that it's like, not everybody's going to like this, not everybody's going to want this, because, you know, it's like, you know, if it's working for them, and they don't have to please an unseen God who they, I mean, that's why I think the children of Israel were always turning to idols, is because it's like, well, at least he's solid, he's stone, he's right there.
Yeah.
I can see him. He's not always changing, and like, you know, like, because a God that you can't see is hard to please. He wants you to do what he wants you to do from moment to moment, you know, and it's like, so what do you mean that today is different than yesterday? And I have to do something different today than I did yesterday.
Right.
Well, there's a different thing that's right today than there was yesterday. So no wonder they went for idols. It's like, no wonder we've gone for idols. It's like they're solid.
Yes.
Where we really want to get back to God. And this economic system, it's like, the weird thing is that what people are going to find is that people who have embraced, I'm going to use a word that's not used much anymore, but repentance. Like when you get to the point where it's like, you realize like, I'm really screwed up. I'm really screwed up. And like I can't, like I want God, I want you to come in and overhaul me completely change me, because I'm all messed up. Like when you get to that point, it's like you go through this big long process, and it's really hard and it's painful, and it's like, but nobody's going to go through that, you know. So it's like, but the advantage in the world we're going into is that people who have, or who are in the process of doing so, are going to have, and you're going to see this, they're going to have an unfair advantage. You know how it talks in the scriptures about how they would come up against Zion?
Yes.
They hate Zion because Zion has an unfair advantage. Like
Yeah.
Zion reaps where it doesn't sow, it sows where it doesn't reap. It you know, it can create food out of its mind. It can, you know, it's like, you know, all, you know, it'll you know, it'll look like it's going down because it's spent every dime it has to build that stupid temple, you know,
Yeah.
and everybody's watching, and they're thinking, now they, you know, they've wasted all their money on that. Where are they going to get enough for food for next year? And then some portal opens out of the, you know, out of the heavens, or something happens. I just, you know, circumstance, and all of a sudden, and I say Zion, but I'm that's almost too fanciful a term. It's like people, a person, because, you know, Zion, or it is people, it's individuals. So it's like when you meet a person, they may be the only person who is part of that kingdom in the city where they live, but they work upon these principles, and it's like they have an unfair advantage, and they will have an increasingly unfair advantage, to where people will look and be like, either they'll be drawn to Zion or to these people, or they will not. So I think I just took 5 of the 10 minutes. Do you want
No,
to read a
you're
little
good.
more? Or do you want to say some closing thoughts, or?
Well, let's see. I want to go back to, and I'll just tell you some things I liked about your poem. One is these repeating things, absolute, complete, and great, and last change. So these are talking about the inevitability kind of, but also the completeness of it. When it falls, it will be complete, and that is perfect. So there are certain things that reinforce one another. So I like that Jesus has done that with you. And before the sun is fully up, so it anticipates this fullness that's coming. And it'll come in small things. I liked about your poem that has eggs. There'll be someone selling something, eggs perhaps. And I like that. It's a nice, like you say, it's a tangible thing. Like what? Well, like eggs. Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. Somebody might have a chicken and they'll say, hey, I've got extra eggs, and they'll do this. And somewhere else, somebody will be giving something away. So I like that. There's this concreteness, and then there's this, this may happen or that may happen. So it's like you have a finality or a sureness, and you're like, yeah, but it might be like this. And so that's going on in the poem. The winds of fortune. See, once again, kind of risk. Well, are they going to sell eggs or what? You're like, well, it's the winds of fortune, and those things have already changed. They blow in a direction for those who work in the service of something more. So, and I love how your poem ends. It has this twist. It's like, then all that we thought we served, when first we set our hands to the plow and decided that we were man enough to look out for number one. It's like, boom. That's a good turn of events. A little surprising on the end there, but it fits. It makes me like the poem even better. It has that element of surprise and a lesson there. Is that the new economy where you look out for number one, and the conclusion of the poem is nope. There's going to be a different economy, and that man enough, because we live in a manly society. Like, who's producing the most? Well, that's a real man. And of course, we've decided what produce means. We didn't say who's putting out the most poems or the most Jesus TV. Bunch of wimps. Yeah. And it's like, oh, why do we, you and I, and look so forward to a new economy? Because we're already outcasts of this one. It's like, oh yeah, we're not going to try anymore. We've tried and it just doesn't work. So we're investing. We're like an investor who's like, I did gold in 2008 and I got my shorts and I tried this, and we're just like, that's not going to work. So you have investors who go, I'm just buying land. That's it. I saw land. Everybody's got to have land. So Bill Gates gathering land. So you have these assumptions that, and sometimes you've been through difficulties, whether it's financial difficulties or physical or emotional, spiritual. And that's what both you and I have been, all of those. And we're like, I give up because I can't handle it. I can't hold it together. Other people can. I see too much. I've already seen too much. It's like the apocalypse, the great revealing, like you're talking about. And it's like, never again. No, I'll die. I'll die before I do that. Whatever that is, I will die. Oh, but it could work for you. I've decided not. I'm like those farmers, sadly, in India. You were mentioning people who kill themselves. One of the droughts, this is probably 5 years ago in India, like 5,000, India's got a lot of people, but still 5,000 farmers taking their life because I was made to farm. I was made to farm. And you're killing yourself and you still got a wife and kids. What about becoming a beggar? Oh, I'm a man. And you're taking your freaking life. But I get it. And I forgive them for their bad example. It's just like.
And, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, talking step back.
No,
yeah, you can wrap it up.
I know that you gotta go soon. I don't want to make a long comment. I just was gonna say, and it just left me. It's okay, but you're right. That comes full circle because I talked about that in the beginning. My feeling is we've hit economics quite a bit. This has been a short session. I don't think we need to hit this poem again.
Yeah.
Unless you want to.
No, I think we're good because I think the themes will come. God's telling you certain things, like He is me. In the songs that He has poetry. It's just reinforced, and it's the nature of everything. Is that it has this? If you're a being, you will have these themes and variations. So you have one, and it's of interest to me. So all of your poems are going to have things that are related to what we've been talking about. And so they are things that we can come back to later if we want. We can have an episode revisiting this, and we'll say, hey, remember how we were talking about it? Well, it turns out it was sooner than we thought. It's 2025, and we still have internet connection, but things have totally changed. Look at this. And then we can talk about that poem in relationships, because it's a prophetic poem. And so, yeah, how did this turn out? Oh, okay, well, that doesn't look right. Okay, maybe it will be later. And that's, in fact, I was gonna do some television program on prophecy and just say, you know what? I grew up thinking prophecy had to be just perfectly correct. And that's a stupid assumption. Who received this prophecy? Was it a sheep or was it a God? Well, it was a man. Oh, and is he as good a writer as Jesus? Does he edit as good as, well, no. All right. Is he a dirty, filthy, rotten, hard-hearted, hopeful sinner like me? And so that's what Jesus, I'm going to not go after prophecy other than Jesus has revealed to me, this is not as exact science for mortals as it would be for Jesus. If Jesus said something, and well, that thing's going to happen. If a mortal says something who's inspired by Jesus, understand what the transmission is coming through. It's coming through a mortal. It will be shaped by that mortal. And God allows that. He allows imperfect prophecies to be manifest. But he has a way to redeem all of that as well. So when you give a blessing, oh, I hope I said the right thing. And then you have apostles who say, you know, it's really not about the words. What? You got a fine print? I'm going to say a bunch of words and it really doesn't matter what I say. Are you just going to quote poems or something, or Led Zeppelin songs? Well, no, I'll try my best. Well, that's what God requires. And so then you give a blessing, which is a prophecy. You know, here's what's going to happen. Here's what God wants you to know. Yeah. And so I'm drawn to the imperfectness of it, because that's what I need to know, because I'm now working for God. Like, oh, this is kind of messy, God. I'm trying to do the best I can. So I'm dealing with individuals. I just got a call from an individual like, hey, you need to be doing some of this stuff that's really practical. It's kind of like the practical economy. And I get that, but I got this tension because I'm hearing God, and it's a messy practice. And so I look forward to poems that will address that. And they are there. I know I've seen them in your poetry. The brokenness is of you is in there, just as it is in mine and in my songs. It acknowledges that, like, oh, I'm trying here. And that's the gospel right there. Are you trying? And so I'm glad to try with you, Jonathan, to try to understand some of these things. So thank you for this poem, because I tell you what, this poem energizes me. I'm like, oh yeah, Jesus has been telling me some of this same stuff that he's revealing to you in a poetic fashion. So it's like a second witness for me. Like, yep, done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, well, thank you. And God bless you till our next episode, which is hopefully soon. We'll leave that to Jesus. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. See you.